Okay, here we go. Welcome. This is the week 2 of C# programming. In this week, we will talk about conditions, scope, and operators. Um, Thank you so much for coming. For the ones who missed last week, you can check the YouTube channel. I have an older version of last week recorded a couple of months ago. We have changed some things during this run, but it is not very different from the one on the channel. Today it will be something different. Um, I will mute everyone first, and then I will toggle the raise hand. So if you have a question, you can press the raise hand button on your right side. Um, well, last time when we did the intro, you guys have chosen to make um, not to have a quiz at the beginning, but to have what do you call it, a summary of what we had last week. I didn't update the slides, so I still have quizzes in my slides, but I will go through last week very shortly. Let me just pull up the slides of last week so I can show you what I will recap. Um, is this a link? Okay. Okay. So in week 1 we have seen well, we have seen what we will be using. We will be using Visual Studio. We talked about the channel that we will upload the recording to and the documentation of C#. We have seen that you should check this mark, of course, when you install Visual Studio, but if you don't, you don't have to do anything. This was just a summary of what we had in the intro. We talked about that every program is composite of statements, and those statements will make the algorithm that your application will run. The statement could be either declaring a variable or a condition or a loop or something else. And we have seen what variables are. So they were a block in the memory where you can store the data. We have seen how to declare the variable, so you can add the type on the left and the identifier on the right. And then we have seen how to assign a value to a variable using just an equal and a semicolon at the end. We have seen some types which were types of variables, of course, but there is also one important type. It's called bool. It's not here in this list, but also there are a lot of types more. We have also seen how to convert from a type to another. So we have seen that you cannot assign a value which is incompatible with the type you were using. We have seen how to convert from a type to another using the to something. So either to integer if you are converting to an integer, or to a string if you are converting to a string, etc., etc. And at the end, we talked about the arithmetic operators, which are just like the mathematical operators you use in the math, daily math, let's say. So plus, minus, and the asterisk for multiplications, and the slash for divisions. But this one is not very much used in usual math, which is the ampersand symbol, which is used for reminders. Will give you the reminder of a division. And we have seen that you can concatenate a string using the plus sign, and a plus sign could be used between an integer, which will sum up the value, but if you use it between two strings, it will concatenate those two strings. This was the last week. Today we will see. Let me get the link again of today's session. So present, copy the link. Okay. Um, we have somebody raising their hands. Angela, sorry, yes, I wasn't paying attention to alt space.
It's okay. I was wondering, could you just go over the the converting thing? I'm still kind of a little confused about that. What's the point and what is that supposed to do? I don't get it.
Okay, so if you have a type, let's say a string type, which is a type that you can only get from a user. So if the user enters their name in a text box, or they enter their age in the text box using digits or letters, what you get in your program is only letters. So if they enter a digit, you get a letter of that digit in quotation. So that would be of the type string. But of course, you want to use it as an integer, as a usual number, so you can add or subtract from it or do something with it, right? But you
So you're
can't do it
saying
with a string.
if
Mhm.
someone enters their name and like say for example I use my name Angela and then
Mhm.
you want to convert the name to an integer to a number?
Not exactly, but if they enter their age, what you
Age,
get is a
okay.
string. What you get in the backend is a string. So it is seen by your program as it is the same as they have entered letters. So the program doesn't know what is the content or how to deal with the content of that specific entry from the user unless you convert it to an integer if you want to use it as an integer, or a double if you want to use it as a double, etc. But if you are using a string in your program and the user enters a name which is a string, then you don't need to convert to anything because it is already a string.
Why wouldn't you
I will
just write
try.
it as an integer? I mean, if
No,
why would
that's the issue. You can't
oh
get an input from the user as integers uh, using a text box, for example,
oh
uh,
okay
because a text box only returns a text. That's
okay
what it is. We well, I will try to make something today. Maybe I'll see a way to demonstrate that convert thing to something else today also, so you can see it again.
okay.
Um, yeah, I hopefully find a way to do it because I ran out of ideas making programs because we only have very limited knowledge so far.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, start presenting. Those were the last week. In today's week, in today's in today's session, we will talk about conditions. So if statements, we will see what is the variable scope and the logical operators. First, if you don't see the slides, you can maybe raise your hand or show me an emoji, sad face or something. Or if my voice not very loud, you can't hear me well when I'm switching back and forth. Also, let me know because I try to fix it. I did some things in my PC, so I think I have fixed it, and now my volume is constantly the same. I hope. Okay. Excuse me. Quiz time. There is no quiz. Sad. Um, an if statement. So what is an if statement? Um, well, what we have seen so far is that your application is running sequentially from top to bottom, right? So what if you like to make a condition and you want to skip a part of your code um, when there is a condition evaluated to be false? So let's say here, if you have an application where you can order a beer, but it only allows ordering beers only if you are older than 16, for example. Could be 18 or 23. Um, so how would you do that? You would have some kind of conditions to say, okay, if the age entered by the user is larger than 16, then you can order a beer. Else, if they are not, show me a message which is saying, you are not allowed to do that. Um, the syntax of making an if statement is just as it sounds. You just write if, very simple. And in between two parentheses, you would have your Boolean expression. A Boolean expression, it could be a variable and an equal or less than or larger than. We will see also those symbols after these slides. And this expression should evaluate to either true or false. And also you could have a Boolean variable right here without any comparison between it and between anything else. So if you say here um, if I have a variable called bool x, here I can say if x, which means if x equal true. We will also try to make that in the demo. So here you can see there are two versions of if statements. The essential thing is if and two parentheses with the Boolean expression inside, and then two curly brackets or braces, and the statements that you want to execute if that condition is true inside those curly braces. Um, else, right here on the right side is optional. You can have it and you can not have it, but if you have it, then this means if that condition doesn't evaluate to be true, then execute whatever here inside the else. Um, let's see it here. Oh, I have it already here. I explained it before. I didn't know I have this example. But anyway, here I have a Boolean variable, and it has the name has discount, and it is equal to true. So I can immediately say if has discount. So this means if discount is equal to true, then do this. And it will write on the screen, you have 20% off. You don't have to worry about this console.write line because we are using something different in this run of the course. Um, here on the second example, we have an expression where we evaluate an expression instead of a Boolean variable. And here we have a variable of the type integer, and we are saying if that age is larger or equal to 18. So larger than or equal to 18, then do this. You can buy a beer. Else, if it's not, then do this. I hope it is simple. Also, you can have multiple if statements within each other, so nested if statements, it's called. Um, it is if you have double conditions you want to check. So here we have this condition, which is number of items. If you have a number of items larger than 6, and then it will go here if you have number of items less than 10, then it will go here. Else, if it's not less than 10, so it is larger than 6 and larger than 10, it will go right here in this else section. It is a little bit tricky in the beginning, but you will get used to it. Nested if statements are very, very useful. Is there any questions so far? Great audience, great developers. Oh, we have one. Yes, you have the megaphone.
Just a quick one to check. I had a look before, but it doesn't. C# doesn't have if else, or if and else if conditionals. It is just purely nesting if statements, isn't it?
It does have else if. I think it's in the
Okay,
next
cool.
slide.
In
No,
that
it's
case,
not.
we'll wait until then.
Yeah, I should probably also add it. So you can, of course, add another if right here after the else, which means if the first one didn't evaluate to be true, then check the second condition. If that is true, do this. If it's not, then go to the next else. So you could have else if, else if, else if as many as you like. And the end, you could have the optional else, which will do any rest cases which wasn't covered in your um, ifs.
Yeah, that's handy then. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question and reminding me to explain it. Angela, you have the megaphone.
Can you explain what the console dot read line means, and then the convert to integer 32, what that part means?
All right. Um, the console.readline, it is something I should remove from the slides because right now we are using forms with buttons and text boxes and something interactive with the user. Previously, in the previous times I did this course, I was using the console.writeLine, which is just something different. It is just a black screen without any buttons, but I thought it's a little bit not any more useful to try to learn a console application. So you don't have to worry about this console.writeLine. Um, I was very busy this week. I didn't have the chance to review my slides. I hope this week I will do it for the next week and the upcoming weeks. The convert, just wait for the demo.
Okay, I can do
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the second part of today is about operators. So we have seen that you can have a condition, but how can you make um, an expression to put in a condition? Well, you need those operators, which they have two parts, either relational operators or equality operators. And of course, the logical operators are also part of this, but it's a little bit different. So the relational operators are if the left part is larger than the right part, you can use just the angular bracket, which only means like you use it in math. If x is larger than y. Also, you have the less than, you have the greater than or equal to, which are two symbols. The equal is on the right side, not on the left side. Just this is very important. This means that if the x on the left side is greater than y, or if the x is equal to y, then do whatever in that if statement. And also you have the less than, which is just the same, and the equal sign on the right side. The equality operators is either it is exactly equal, so here we have x is exactly equal to y, or you can say if x is not equal to y. So it could be any number or any letter or anything other than y, and you can use the exclamation mark before the equal, which means it's not equal. The exclamation mark also could be used to reverse the meaning of a boolean. So if it is true and you use it with an exclamation mark, this means now it is false. The boolean itself didn't change, but the meaning of this expression means now it is false. So the exclamation mark will reverse whatever comes after it. You can have two conditions with and in between. So you have the two and symbols in between. This means both of those conditions has to be true in order for the condition the if condition in general to be executed or to be evaluated to true. So if one of them is false, this if will be skipped. You can have an or condition with those two pipes, vertical pipes. Um, this also means that one of those should be true. The evaluation comes from the left to the right, so first P is evaluated. If it's true, then Q is not evaluated, so it will skip and go inside. If it is false, it will go to the next part and try to evaluate it. If Q is true, then it will execute. If it's false, then it will not. So also this is important because sometimes you add, well, you have methods. Well, we don't know anything about methods yet, but if you just remember this for now. If you are going to the pre-intermediate course, just make sure to know that the evaluation comes from the left. I talked so much about it, it doesn't even deserve whatever time I have spent on it. Here you have an example. We have if room, let's say this variable room type is somewhere defined. We can't see it right here, but it is of the type obviously string. And here we are saying if the room type is equal to single in 2 quotation marks, or if the room type is equal to twin. So if either of those is true, then this statement will be executed, and then the other if statement will be evaluated. So what is the difference between adding two conditions in the same line or adding a nested if statement? The difference is that you can actually add this line right here at the end of the first line with and symbol, which is the same, but then you can't make those statements executed only when this variable, when this condition is true. So here we are separating those two for this reason, because we want these statements, whatever here comes between those, to be executed once and then evaluate this condition. So these are also the differences between the nested statements and putting all the conditions in one line. Is there any question so far? Okay, we have a question from Angela. Yes, you have the megaphone.
Can you define Boolean for me?
Okay, so we have seen all the types of variables that you can say, not all of them, but the most used types. So we have integer, we have string, we have double. One of them is also called bool, which only has the value either true or false.
Okay.
Hope that answered your question.
Yes.
Thank you for your question. Is there anything else still ambiguous to you all? Okay, prima, perfect. The third part is the variable scope. It's a little bit not very interesting, but it is very important. So it is something you want to pay attention to. In the definition of MSDN, it says the scope of a variable, sometimes referred to as accessibility of a variable, refers to where the variable can be read from and or written to, and the variable's lifetime, or how long it stays in the memory. So in general, a local variable is only available after the declaration of it in a block of code in which it has been declared. So previously, like here where we have one. Okay, maybe in the next slides we'll have one. Yeah. So here we have declared a variable of type A, variable A of type double, and we have given it an uh, a number, right? Don't worry about console read line or convert to wherever. So we have this value added to A, right? Um, we can use A from within those two curly braces. So you can use it right here. We can say if A not equal to 0, and also we can use it right here inside those two curly braces also. We can say B equal A divided by 1 divided by A, and we are printing A. So we are using A. Um, so this means that this A has the lifetime from the moment you have declared it until the end of that scope, until you reach the closed curly braces. So another one, we have declared this variable called B. We have declared this variable B inside those inner curly braces. So this has the lifetime from this moment, from this line, until this line, the second line. But then when it reaches this closed curly braces, the inner one, it will be removed from the memory. So if you try to access right here the B variable, you cannot access it because it is already gone. It is very simple. I hope it is clear. Is there a question? And let me just drink some water. Let me just mute my. Oh, I need it. Okay. So is there any questions so far? We have one. Yes, you have the megaphone. I can probably, if you move your mic a little bit closer to your mouth, I can hear you better because right now I can't. This one?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, the microphone's not working too well for me. Can you explain all of this? Because I see it says double A, and then it says equals to convert to double. What does that mean if it's already a double?
Right. Uh, so we are getting a lot of questions about the convert statements. So right here I have this method or this action, let's say convert dot to double. It will convert whatever comes in the two parentheses after it. So right here I have the value read from the console, which is a string. You don't really need to know what a console read line is, but here I have a string value, and I need that string value to be assigned to a double variable. So I have to convert that string to a double, and that's why I use convert dot to double. And then into curly, not curly, into parentheses, I give it the string. Uh, was that clear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your question. Next question. Yes, you have the megaphone.
Thanks. I might be jumping ahead, but with variable scope, can we touch on essentially global variables or defining variables in to be used via different subroutines? That might be something for later on coming up, but obviously with variable scope,
Sorry, I'm not
variables.
understanding. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah. So
Okay.
so obviously global a variable you've got here can be used within the routine, and it dies when the routine dies. But sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
might want to. I can obviously pass variables between routines as
Mm-hmm.
parameters, but I
Mm-hmm.
might also want to update essentially a global variable, a central variable that can be read and written to at any
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know whether that's part of these slides or the coming slides, but if not, maybe we can cover that at some point.
Okay. A global variable is something very, very ugly to use. I
Yes,
very much discourage you all to use a global variable.
that's
But
fine.
in this slide that you see on the screen, we can consider A here as a global variable in the scope of course, in this scope.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so, well, it's the same definition. It's just a variable, but it is in a bigger scope than the scopes
yeah.
that you are using. I will try also
That,
see that in the demo. Um,
yeah, that's fine. It was just a case of, obviously, if that was just one routine that you called, you might want it either reading from a constant, from a global constant, or um, or being able to pass data back to a variable that other routines can read from or write to. But
yeah,
that's
yeah, of
fine.
course.
If that's obviously not the best way to do it, then no doubt we'll cover the best way to do the
Yeah,
equivalent
of
of the
course.
global variable in it. Yeah,
Of course, because you already know what a parameter is, and then you know what a
yeah,
method is. So the best way is to pass it in a method using a parameter. But because this is still the basics, we
yeah.
can't cover yet what a method is and what a parameter is.
That's fine.
Um,
That's fine.
yeah,
Thank you.
that's a nice question. Thank you. Next question is from Angela.
So when I go to try to practice this, if I was to type exactly what you have up there into the program,
Mhm.
what am I supposed to expect for it to do?
What I have right here.
Yes.
What program are you running?
Um, the same one that you were using the last time. I forgot the name of it. Everything's kind of new to me.
Okay.
Vision something. Forgot the name
Yeah,
of it.
Visual Studio. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I meant using Visual Studio, you can create different programs. So either a console application or a Windows Form application where we have that ability to add buttons and add things. The one I used last week was the form. If you add this code in the form, it will probably give you errors, or it will just run without you seeing any result, because this is from a different type of application. But
Oh,
I
I
will
see.
cover this in the Windows form if I have much time. Yeah, well,
Okay.
I am in the demo section.
Okay,
Then I
good.
have time.
Yay.
Okay. Thank you for your question. Okay, so today's demo would be creating an application which will simulate ordering beers, apparently. Oh, I have to share my screen first. Share without sound, share, let me copy the link. Okay, now show me some hearts if you see yourself. Nice. Okay, let's hide this. That's enough of heart, thank you. Let me create a new application. So I will create a new project here on the right side. I will use Windows Forms. Um, Let me move the recorder a little bit closer so you can see it on YouTube a little bit um, better, hopefully. And I don't want tests, I want Windows desktop. So I would use Windows Form. Next, I say week 2 forms, because I probably have week 2 made a lot of times. So I added forms to the end. With the time. And this time you can watch yourself. Okay, let me restart with the 100% rescaling because I'm using a smaller screen right now. Okay, today I want to introduce some new tools to the form. Last week we have seen buttons and text box and the label. This week I want to introduce something new. So of course it's the same as last week. If you weren't here, this is the form. On the right side there is the property section where you can change the property and the name. The top side is where you can create new forms or classes, which is something we will use in the future, but not now. Here on the left side, the toolbox, open it, I will pin it. I will add a list box. A list box is a box which contains a list of items. You can add items either in the runtime or during the design time, so either right now or when you run your application. I also need a button. Um, so this application is supposed to add or to get orders from a customer, maybe in a bar, right? And I want to have, let me see, maybe a checkbox. So I create a checkbox which saying what item you want to order. For now, I will only have two, maybe a beer with alcohol and beer without, or a beer with alcohol and energy drink or something. Okay, and a button to make the order. I will add something else afterwards to see the numbers. And this list box will have all the items you have ordered so far. I don't need this section anymore. So right now I need to first, can you see it clearly, or should I open the magnification? Maybe, okay, hearts means can see it. Okay. So here I have the title called checkbox. I want to change it to something more descriptive. I go to the text, of course, as usual, either text or value, depends on the item. So here it's a text. I will say beer with alcohol. Alcohol. I hope I spelled it right. And I want to give it a name right here. So checkbox, either checkbox beer, so I can know what is this item I'm using in the backend. Here is also going to be checkbox energy, maybe energy drink, and of course change the text to energy drink. I hope I spelled it right. I'm not sure energy this it's written this way. Maybe with an I. Anyway, but you get the idea. It's not about spelling right now. A button should be order or make an order, capital O, and also, of course, button order. This list box, I only have one, so I will leave it as a list box one. of course, it has to be empty at the beginning of the program because, well, there is no order yet. And I want to know the age of the customer. So let me get a text box where I can demonstrate converting the age using convert. And a label. This label is enter your age. And here I will give it the name age, and it has to be empty at the beginning. So this is my whole program. It's very simple. We designed first, and then we go to the code. So let's see. If I want to check this box, what will happen? If I want to check this box, what will happen? But before I do either of those, I have to enter the age, right? We can either do the checking while we are entering right here and while we are checking, or when we finish and we press the button, it will do all the checkings and verification and then making the order. I prefer to do it in the button for now because it's a very small application. Now you can see this is the generated code from the environment of the IDE we're using. This is a scope, this is another scope, and this is another scope. So now you know what a scope is. If you write your code right here, it will be accessed from here to here, and it won't be accessed after this closed bracket. This is the function of clicking the button, or the event that it will be executed when you click a button. So your code of clicking a button should be in between those two. I will add it right here. So first I want to check the age, or before I check the age, let me say, let me show you what is the usual behavior without the if statement and then with the if statement. So if I click the order, I want to get whatever is checked from those two and then add it to this list box. So I will say, well, I have to use an if statement right here to see which one is checked and which one is not. So I would say if, what was it? Checkbox peer dot checked. Dot checked is a property. If you hover over it, it says in the balloon, it is of the type bool. So you don't have to say equal equal true or equal equal false, because when you say it just like this means if it is true. If you want to say if it is not true, you can add an exclamation mark at the beginning right here. This means if it is not checked, or you can say here equal equal false. This is also the same as using the exclamation mark. I would say this, if it is checked. If beer is checked, I want to add things. So two curly braces. I will say my list box list box one dot items dot add. This is a special one. It has two levels inside it. You want to add an item, so you go to the items section and then you go to the add. If you don't want to memorize those things, you can just Google them, immediately get the answer. So don't bother yourself, but you will memorize them by practice. Two curly, not curly, why I just keep saying curly. Two parentheses, and inside here I should add whatever I want to add. I will say one beer, and it has to be a string, so one beer, and a semicolon at the end. So let me check it, let me try it. If it runs today, It will be perfect. Here we go. So all we have done is checking this one and clicking this button. So if I click it before I check, nothing happened. If I check, I click, I have one beer added to the list. I click again, I have another beer added to the list. If I remove the check, I click, then nothing is added anymore. That's perfect. We want something like this to the next one, which is energy drink. Let's say here also is probably the same. So I will copy this and paste it right here. And this would be energy drink. And here we'll say one energy drink. Let me also run it before we add the age verification and the conversion, which is something I want to see. So click nothing, beer is added, um, click energy drink, click, now energy drink is added. Let me uncheck both, nothing, let me check both, click, and now both of them are also added. This is perfect. I want to check for the age. We want to allow accessing or ordering beers only if the age entered is above 18. Okay. How do we do that? First, let me just add some enters right here. I have some space. I want to say if text box age dot text, which has the text property. Is there any problem, Angela? Raise your hand so I can give you the megaphone. Yes.
Your voice is starting to, I don't know about other people, but it's starting to get a little wavery or something like that. Like it's not clear for me. I don't know if other people are experiencing the same thing.
Okay. I'll try to re-enter then, like last time I re-entered and it solved it. I hope you still can see the screen.
That's much
Okay.
better. Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, so I was checking the age. I said we want to check if it's above 18, so I want to check the text, and I want to say if it is equal 18, right? Or, well, let me say, let's say this like this, okay? Now I can say if the text entered by the user is exactly 18, I can do whatever after it, right? But if I want to have a range, let's say it's either 18 or above, I can't use the larger or equal with a string because this text box only allows a text, which is a string. And I cannot compare a text with larger or equal. It doesn't know how to make larger from a text, right? So I have to make this a number. So I have to convert it from the type string with two quotations to a number. So I have an integer um, um, converted age. I just declared this new variable of the type integer. Now I want to say converted age equal to convert dot to integer, which means whatever comes inside those two parentheses, it will be converted to the type integer and then stored in this variable. So I want to convert the text that the user enters. So I will take this out from here and put it right here. And of course, a semicolon at the end. So now this will take the text, which is just a string, and tries to convert it and make it as an integer, which is a number. And now we have a number. I can say if this converted age is larger than 18, so I enter 18 as digits without the quotation marks, and now it works. I couldn't do this using using this text. So if I go back again, you can verify it. You can't compare the text with a number, so you have to convert it from a text to a number. I hope this was clear. I will ask you if this wasn't clear before I go on. Paul?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So, what do you do to prevent somebody from entering their age as in letters, like 18 or 20 written out in letters? Because you can't convert that to an integer, can you?
Yes, this is something we cover basically um, in the intermediate level, I believe,
Okay,
um,
that's fine.
using try and catch. But if you want to use, well, do you know the ASCII table, the ASCII table?
Not well.
Okay, so an ASCII table means every character it has a value of integer represented in a number. Let me pull the ASCII table. Um, Images, use maybe this one, very small. Okay, so an ASCII table means that those digits, those letters, and those symbols has in an equal number of integer represented. So you can use the number to represent the character or use the character to represent the number. So they are interchangeable. Um, if you want to say I want only digits, you can say if the entered characters are from 48, which is number 0, until it is 57, which is number 8, number 9, then accept it, otherwise don't. But this is a little bit advanced. You can
Okay.
also use try and catch, which is just something very simple, simpler than this way. Um, I hope we will cover it if you stayed to the intermediate level. Okay, but so far we have converted from the text to a number, and we want to do the peers only if you are older than 18. And this won't be here anymore. So what we have here right now is if you are older than 18, you can order a beer. If you are not, you can order an energy drink. But if you are also older than 18, you can order either a beer or a drink because both of those applies to you. Let's see it in action. Let me enter 15. I order, nothing happening. I add a beer, order, also nothing happening. I add an energy drink, I order, only the energy drink is added, but not the beer. If I remove the beer, also I can only add energy drinks. If I change this one to 19, for example, I still can add energy drinks. And now I can add beers too. So I have a beer and an energy drink. This is something. You can also have a condition, so it's a range between something, but let's say between 18 and and where is the end? And age is less than 80, maybe. I don't want people older than 80 for some reason. But this is to demonstrate the end. So I will say here I am 79. I want to order a beer. I can order a beer. I am 80. I order a beer. I can't anymore. I only have energy drink. And I hope my heart will stay in a good health with an energy drink. That's about it. We have seen that this variable is declared right here in the bigger scope, and I have used it right here, and I can also use it right here in the smaller scope. But if it is inside those, I couldn't use it afterwards. Um, is there anything else you want me to demonstrate? Ball, you are still raising your hand?
No.
Or maybe this is okay. Well, that was it then. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope to see you next week. If you have a question, you can send it to me. If you want to see this presentation again, you can go to YouTube channel. If you have a question, you can add a comment either on YouTube channel or send it to me directly here on Altspace.